But now we're going to move from basically talking about how to make your own pictures. And I want to say too, I really appreciated that that verbal sort of language difference, saying make your own pictures rather than take them. And I think that because it directly leads into what I'm about to talk about, which is taking your imagery and really using simple graphic editing tools to make those things really pop in a news feed. So a lot of times when you're sending out your newsletter, posting on social media, adding things to your blog, one of the things that can really help attract people is that visual imagery that goes with it. And we know from a lot of studies that essentially it's the visual that pulls people in. So you might have written a great blog, but if your visual doesn't captivate people when they see it come across their news feed or their email, they won't ever read it. So
Absolutely.
that becomes a huge part of how you are going to bring people into your fold to actually take actions and get more involved in that longer form content that you have out there. And I see Aaron's chatting in a question here, which is, do you have any tips for shooting in a crowd? So I'm going to let you answer that real quick before we move on.
That's one of the most difficult things to do, but again, it's about having a main point of focus. So if you're in a crowd, find someone or something that really drew your attention to the scene. And we often don't realize that. We don't realize something drew us to put the phone up to our face and want to take a picture. What was that? Think about it and really make sure that your image is conveying that in the image. So find a person where you can see their eyes, you can see their face, and especially eye contact is what's going to draw the viewer into the image. So single out someone to be your central hero.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, because I feel like when you are looking at a room full of people, I teach a lot of classes, I look out at different events, at the whole audience, and there's always like one or two people that are really connecting in with me, and so it's that same principle. So before I get started on sharing some of the tools, the other thing I wanted to let everyone know is you're going to notice in this presentation I don't talk about Adobe tools. So we're not going to talk today about Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator or InDesign. If you are talented enough to be using those programs, then you're a little more advanced than most people, honestly. So I do believe in Adobe systems. I use them all the time to create my images as a designer. But I feel like in the world of digital marketing, we need some things that are a little simpler and a little more available on the go sometimes, especially when we're running social media campaigns. So sometimes you're out and about and the only thing you've got is your smartphone or your tablet, and you don't really want to have to take all the imagery back and then go edit it on Photoshop or Illustrator. You want to be able to just put those things online and really have an impact. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is those tools that you can use to really make things pop. So again, for those of you who, I know some of you have joined as we've started the call, so I'm Sarah, I'm the lead instructor of the JB Media Institute, and you will get a copy of this presentation along with the recording. Please feel free to reach out to me with any other questions that you have. So there's a few basics I want to cover. First of all, common layouts. So one of the things I come across when I'm teaching and continuing education is people's confusion about what kind of images fit in different places. And I don't mean to oversimplify it, but the real truth is it's very much what we did in kindergarten, which is square pegs go in the square hole, round pegs go in the round hole, right? So when we're looking at different places online where we would put imagery, we kind of want to get used to what are the basic layouts, the squares, the rectangles, the circles. So you can see I've thrown in some examples of different things on social media where now the sites are cropping your squares into circles, right? So on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, or on Twitter, on Instagram, they're actually taking the square photos I put up and then cropping them into those circles as my profile pic. If you have a logo for a business, they're going to do the same thing. It's going to crop into that circle. So it's important, especially if you do square style images, that you have space around, all the way around the actual central piece of the image, because otherwise when it crops into that circle, it'll sometimes cut things out. And also when you're looking at, the tops, the cover photos, things basically like we see here in Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn all have these sort of horizontal rectangular images that go across the top and the background. That's the same kind of layout we're going to see in website headers, in e-newsletter headers. So when you're thinking about just taking photos that you're going to be able to use in some of these places, you have to be thinking about that orientation. If you take a lot of vertical photos with your phone, then you're going to realize pretty quickly that you have to crop a lot of those to fit into these types of spaces. The only exception to that really is Pinterest, and Pinterest does allow these more vertical images to be created, so they're much taller than they are wider, but the vast majority of things out there are really going to be looking for the squares and the rectangular images, and you really want to think about, where is the focus of the image placed. So if you look at this Facebook image right here, my cover photo, this is actually me from my birthday on Friday, and somebody did a really great photo randomly on my birthday that I fell in love with. But you can see if my face was in the center of this image, on the phone on Facebook, my profile pic would be laying over top of my face, right? So it's really important that if I want that photo to look great, that I'm to the left or the right of that image. So that's just something as you're moving forward with social media you're going to want to pay attention to. And again, if you're doing e-newsletters, your own website, your blog, you're going to want to test things out and really understand what kind of images lay out really well in certain types of situations, because then you can have more of an intent to take pictures for your cover photo that'll look great once you're really, really clear on that. The other thing that I'm including is a common social media sizes. So this is a link into Sprout Social's always up-to-date guide for social media image sizes. So keep in mind, all photographs are going to look better when they are closer to the actual sizing that is recommended. And so this is an amazing database of things for everything from Twitter to Facebook to Instagram to Tumblr to Google Plus. It's literally everything that's out there listed on their system, and they pretty much update this every few months as often as they can to make sure they have the most commonly used sizings for each of the different social media accounts. So definitely get familiar with this and learn how to adjust some of your images when you need to, and make them basically fit perfectly into the layouts. Also, there's some key file formats, especially for social media and websites and newsletters, that you need to be aware of. So JPEGs, PNGs, and GIFs are really the standard. So when it comes to photos, you really want a JPEG, a PNG, or a GIF. You also want to make sure that your images are not high resolution and extremely large. So again, a lot of times when you're taking photos, you'll notice that the file size is 2 megabytes. Well, that's a pretty big image to be putting on your website or your newsletter. If you put it onto social media, a lot of times they're going to compress that image because otherwise it'll load really slowly. So you want to just keep this in mind. Again, if you're playing around with different types of cameras, you're doing different things, there's lots of different file formats, but when it comes to actually uploading this stuff online, you really want to make sure it's one of these. And in the past, I've run into people who really struggled because their JPEGs were losing kind of their quality, especially when they uploaded them to Facebook. They would feel like the image was really clear and then it got fuzzy when they uploaded it. So I do want to encourage you to think about changing it to a PNG. PNG files actually sometimes render a lot better on Facebook, especially when they're compressed. They handle the compression better, so they keep that real clarity and that sharpness, and that can be really, really helpful. And then with GIFs, of course, we know GIFs can be animated or non-animated. So not every site is going to accept an animated GIF, but a lot of them do nowadays. So if you want to create those kind of animated things, you can do that. That's a little bit more advanced than what we're talking about today, but it can create some really interesting images. And as a side note, I just put in the common file formats for videos. So again, if I'm uploading things to my social media, if I'm putting things on YouTube or Vimeo, I'm really going to need to have the MP4 or the MOV files. Those are the most commonly used. So this is just a great list to kind of have to understand the type of formats that are most acceptable when you're putting things onto the internet. So I want to talk about a few tools that I've been using lately that I really love, that I think are easy to learn and make you capable of doing different things on both your smartphones as well as your computers. So you're able to kind of go between whatever device you're working on and create not just the images, but then to create graphics out of those images. So essentially the first one I'm going to recommend is Canva. And you can see here, Canva has a number of templates built in for all the different sizes that you would need. So Facebook ads, Facebook posts, Instagram posts, Twitter posts, Pinterest graphics. They've already built in the actual sizes of the template that you need so that you can pull your images in and just drop them in. Now, Canva is going to provide a ton of stock imagery. Some of it will be free, some of it will be about $1 per image, but you can also upload all your own photos. And so as you're taking photos, you just upload them to this editor. They have an amazing phone app for both iPhones and Droids, so I can actually take the pictures on my phone, then upload them right to the app, and then do all my editing directly on my smaller device. And I've just found this to be one of the greatest tools that's come out as of late. And in addition, their video tutorial sort of bank of information on how to learn to use Canva is quite possibly one of the most epically amazing help areas I've ever seen. So they're really working hard to make it easy for people to use their system. And I have found that usually in a matter of 10 to 15 minutes, if I have really good photographs that I'm taking, I can almost instantly make really awesome graphics out of them. And there's lots of free fonts, free, graphics that you can add to the image, overlays, you can add your own branded colors if you have the color numbers. So it really allows you a lot of freedom. It's kind of like a fast, quickie version of Photoshop. One pro tip, you can make your own photo filter. So the way that Instagram has filters, Canva has filters built in. But if you actually want to design your own branded filter using your own colors or your own styles, you can do that and save it, and then you will be able to lay that filter over all your own images. Built-in Facebook tools. So the Facebook business pages are now giving you a lot of options to build your own imagery and make it interactive. So if I'm on Facebook and I'm on my business page, I can click share a photo or video, and from there it's going to allow me to make photo albums, carousels, collages, and slideshows. It'll also give me free music to put with my slideshow. So if I've taken a number of photos at an event, I can actually click to build a slideshow, add all the images, add some music, put some cool effects on it, and post it to Facebook. And that's going to make what I'm putting up a lot more engaging and kind of stand out. I also want to encourage everybody that if you are using Facebook business pages, you've never tried to go live before, consider doing that. That's not necessarily having to do with photography today, but I feel like going live is really powerful. And also remember, uploading your videos and your photos directly to Facebook really gives them more power in the news feed. So you don't just want to share things, you really want to upload them to Facebook, build those albums, build those slideshows, and again, you'll get more exposure for that potential content. There's another great tool that I've been using. It's called Stencil. It's sort of similar to Canva, but it has a little bit more involved in it. There are free options and then paid options if you'd like to upgrade for more advanced kind of editing tools. But what I really like about the Stencil system is they have over 800,000 royalty-free icons and emojis. And so because I'm a social media person and I love kind of getting into the social media audiences and connecting with them, this is a place where I can make a lot of cool images and then drop in things that are really trendy and interesting, like emojis. And they actually have worked really hard to create an incredibly diverse number of emojis with different types of people represented, topics represented. So it's a huge database that they give you access to. They also give you databases of background images and quotes. So again, I'm always going to be a fan of using my own images, but if I needed to find something that I could use really quickly, they're going to have some really good options, and they're not the ones that you kind of see everywhere else. And then they have a lot of different quotes that you could pull from to make really simple social media images. But again, this tool allows you to upload all your own photography, and that's where I think you get the most out of the tool, is being able to really take your own images and create something really unique and original. Also, if you're using Instagram, I suggest that you consider using some apps. So my favorites are Layout and Boomerang. Right here you can see on my account, because I've added those apps to my phone. When I go into my Instagram, I have the Boomerang option and the Layout option immediately available. So this is what allows me on Instagram to create simple collages of different images, and also to create these really short repeating videos that are sort of like animated GIFs. But I feel like Instagram is now offering a ton of stuff out there. There's one called Pick Stitch that I really like, where you can create collages of images with music, again, that they give you for free. There's a great app called Hyperlapse that will actually help you create time-lapse video through images right on your own iPhone through the Instagram app. And then as a side note, I threw in, there's two things. One's called When to Post. One's called Prime, and these two Instagram apps actually allow you to figure out when the best time to post is for your network. It tracks different information about your Instagram network, shows you when most people are engaging, so you can start to make sure that when you're posting your imagery, you're posting it at a time when you're going to get maximum exposure. So it can be really, really helpful in building engagement and reach for your actual content. And again, when it comes to Instagram, I really want people to get creative and think outside the box. Think about stories. Sharing an Instagram story is not just sharing video, it's also sharing images. And again, they build in all these effects. You can put text on it. You can make yourself look like a magical fairy, whatever you'd like to do. But again, it's something that I think when it goes into the news feed, it can really stand out. And I think if you've put in some of the work that Chris talked about to really understand your intent and your message, you become better at using tools like stories, because you're really clear on what you're trying to say. And so you choose the effects that really reinforce that stuff. Instead of it kind of being random and just throwing out whatever you want, you start to be really thoughtful about how you enhance your images. And again, that's really what, when somebody's scrolling on their phone just through a lot of different images, you want it to pop and be really different. I think doing a story can be something that stands out and people are alerted to it in a different way. I also think you want to test out different media types when you're using Instagram. So try different types of shots, try close-ups, try things far back, try selfie style, whatever it is, to see what do people really relate to, what does your audience really want, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to give them content that they really want. And so I've just put together some examples of successful images. This is actually one of my longtime web design clients and also a student of the Institute, Lightheart Gear. And I think this is just an interesting example, because here you have their clearance sale image. That performed extremely well. And it seems like the simplest, kind of not that exciting of an image, but for their particular network who loves the product so much, they're always looking for that opportunity to get some money off these amazing tents, right? So just having that really red, clear, like it's on sale now, very direct, created a huge amount of click-throughs. And then on the same level, you'll see on this right side, their founder, Judy, she just recently hiked Mount Katahdin up in Maine. And because she knows her network is a bunch of people that spend a lot of their time outdoors, this got a huge amount of response organically from her network. And because it really brings together the values that her customers hold, they see that they share those same values with the founder of this business. And I think it really tells the story of how you're not just buying these tents from somebody who wants to sell you a tent. You're buying these tents from somebody who makes them by hand and actually sleeps in them every single year and goes all over the country hiking and even all over the world. So again, two different ways of telling a story that were really, really effective. Same here with JB Media, just two different examples of storytelling. This is a graphic, it's not an image, but it's a graphic that we made really simply for our, one of our giveaways. And that graphic really did well in the newsfeed. It stood out, it attracted a lot of attention because of the colors. And then over here, an image that was taken on the fly by one of our staff members, Leah, while we were out doing some community cleanup work. So again, we're telling the story in a lot of different ways visually, and both of these posts attracted a lot of attention. right? And so it's really about, I think, having that well-rounded view of all the different types of stories that you're telling as a business or organization. Sometimes they'll be sales oriented, but sometimes they'll just be about connecting with people about the things that they care about. And especially in social media, we want to see that happen. And then again, I've put in some final examples. This is another student, some of their Instagram imagery. Some of this stuff is really on the fly. I loved this one on the right because it's just a storage room of people working in it. But this got the most comments out of a lot of their images. And it's because people had met these people before. They started talking about it. They were saying how excited they are to see people next week. So really kind of being on the ground. This is a venue that people go to for events. And they've probably gone back more than once in the past. And so just connecting in with that. And it's the same thing here with this video they did of people singing. It really kind of brought that experience of being on site and what it's like there. And so this got over 350 views, which was a really big number for them. And so again, just connecting in with your audience and really understanding what's going to make them relate is incredibly important. So I know we're right at 1 o'clock. If there's any other questions, we're definitely glad to take them. I know that most of you may need to get back to your day, so thank you so much for joining us. And please feel free to reach out to me with any other questions after the fact. You can email me at any time, and I'll be glad to offer feedback or even to send you links to different tools and talk about how you can create more images and get more connected to your networks and get a higher impact. So thank you all so much for being here, and thanks for being here, Chris.
Thank you, Sarah.